Good afternoon and thanks for joining me on The Word at Noon. My name is Remy Allen. Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, says Nigerians should not hold the Buhari administration responsible for not rescuing all the kidnapped Chibok girls. Adesina said 267 were spirited away, about 57 escaped immediately, and over 100 have been returned by the administration. The special advisor stated that the government was proactive to tackle the kidnap at the time it occurred, adding that the incoming should take up the responsibility to recover the girls. After days of uncertainty, the federal government has begun evacuating Nigerians stranded in Sudan following the outbreak of conflict in the North African country. Minister of Foreign Affairs Godfrey Onyema and his counterpart, Minister of State Zubairu Dada, confirmed the development after the matter was deliberated upon at the Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. Onyema confirmed that 40 luxury buses were already on ground in crisis-ridden Sudan to pick up Nigerians in the country to Egypt. He said once they are safely moved to Egypt, other arrangements will be effected to airlift them back to Nigeria. Onyema also revealed that the evacuation is being coordinated by the Nigerian Embassy in Sudan, as well as authorities of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, whose Director General has been on ground in Egypt to receive the evacuees. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has filed an appeal challenging the ruling of the Federal High Court Lagos, which struck out its suit seeking the forfeiture of 14 properties and 400 million naira linked to the Kogi State Governor, Yaya Bello, citing his immunity from prosecution under the 1999 Constitution. In the ruling, Justice Nicholas Oweibo struck out the suit on the ground that Section 308 of the 1999 Constitution prevents the institution of any criminal or civil case against a sitting governor or the president. In its notice of appeal, the EFCC submitted that Justice Oweibo erred in law when he struck out the suit, as the immunity conferred on the respondent against any civil or criminal proceedings during his incumbency as a governor of Kogi State does not extend to properties reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime traced to him. Aid agencies are warning of a catastrophe as fuel and basic goods run out in Khartoum, Sudan. Tens of thousands of people fleeing violence in Sudan are spilling into Chad, with aid agencies warning that larger flows of refugees are expected to arrive. Since fierce fighting broke out in Sudan on April 15, an estimated 20,000 people have entered Chad, and at least 100,000 are set to arrive. Odraya Sawyer reports.
The humanitarian situation in Sudan has been deteriorating rapidly since violence broke out 12 days ago. People say they are running out of food, water and medicine.
We are really suffering. Grain mills are closed and we cannot grind our stock of wheat. Most basic commodities are absent, and if they are available, the prices are very high.
Living conditions are very dire for everyone. Prices have soared and means of transportation are almost gone. People are really suffering.
It is not only Sudanese. These Rohingya refugees fled persecution in Myanmar. They now find themselves in the middle of another conflict.
We need the safe zone because here situation is very bad, very heavy fighting with two groups. So we need the rescue anywhere. Need a safe zone.
Some people have managed to escape. A boat carrying 1,600 citizens of 50 countries has docked in Jeddah and Saudi Arabia and the United Nations says at least 20,000 people have arrived in Chad. The number of those fleeing Sudan is expected to reach up to 200,000 in the coming days as more and more people try to find a way out. Those who remain behind say it is not only the deteriorating humanitarian conditions they are worried about, but also the security situation in the capital. At the weekend, inmates escaped from Gobar prison in the capital as high-profile detainee who served in former President Omar al-Bashir's government announced he had left the prison. Ahmed Harun is wanted by the International Criminal Court on charges of crimes against humanity in Darfur. The army says Bashir is being held in a military hospital. The Rapid Support Forces posted a video on social media saying it had taken over a major oil refinery and power plant about 70 kilometers from Khartoum.
We are in full control of the refinery. We believe in action, not empty words. This is not the time for their nonsense. We control the majority of the country, north, south, east and west. We have 200% control over Sudan.
Despite this, the army says it is in control.
It is the pride of the Sudanese army that we have not touched a single facility or any infrastructure. It is the Rapid Support Forces that destroyed them. This war will come to an end very soon, and you will listen to the final statement. All of the main facilities are operational and in order, including the electricity and water supplies.
The United Nations says there is no sign the warring parties are ready to negotiate and has warned of further suffering as long as the fighting continues. Oduayo Soya, Osrc News.
Meanwhile, the UN has renewed calls to both sides in Sudan to fully abide by a 3-day ceasefire and to allow access to humanitarian workers. Thousands of Sudanese and foreign nationals are still trying to get out of the country.
Difficult to say how stomach churning it was. You know, you lose appetite, you're just constantly in stress, you don't know what's going to happen. Am I going to make it? Am I going to... It was glad by the time we got to the airport and we saw the British forces, the British planes, it was very, very tension relieving.
We just thank God for, for Saddam, for bringing us here, and we just pray that everyone back home is safe and, everything becomes better.
Yeah, it's a very terrible experience, but
you must be so happy to have them back.
Of course.
The bloodshed we have seen over the past 10 days in Sudan is heartbreaking. In a country whose people have already suffered so much in recent years. WHO welcomes the ceasefire agreed between the parties. We urge all parties to fully respect it.
In a related development, the death toll among followers of a Kenyan court who believe they would go to heaven if they starve themselves to death has risen to 90. The number of people who died has been steadily rising as authorities continue to carry out exhumations of mass graves found in an 800-acre area of forest near the coastal town of Malindi. 50 members of the Good News International Church were rescued from the forest last week. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he has had his first phone call with his Chinese counterpart since the start of the war in Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky described his conversation with Xi Jinping as slow and meaningful. Xi met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow last month, and Beijing saying it is neutral on the issue of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And that's Word at Noon. Thanks so much for watching. Good afternoon.